What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today, as you may or may not have known and seen from the thumbnail, I won the CCGS Invitational. I'll give you some time to look at the bracket above. And so basically this Invitational is a tournament that those that have won past tournaments, for me it was GamerG, are able to participate in to get the final world spot, CCGS World's final spot. There are already 15 other players, and well, I think not all are qualified. Anyway, 16 total players in the world finals. The 16 best players. There are other players that are on my skill level and other skill levels that didn't make it, but yes, and I was able to win. So we're just gonna go through all the matches, show the replays. So my opponents were Azilys, Soking, Atchiin, and then finally Oxalate. Absolutely brutal opponents, amazing players, all of them. All, I'm sure, like top 50 in the world. So very brutal path I had to take, but I was able to play well enough. So let's start off. I'll show the losses as well. I may speed through them a little bit faster. But first off was Azilys versus me playing this Mega Knight. It can also be a P.E.K.K.A deck. And basically, I thought this deck had a decent matchup against Hog. Maybe with maybe with P.E.K.K.A it does, as that counters. Also maybe with instead of 2 spells or 3 spells, because I ran the variation with Poison Log Zap. Instead of running that variation, run the one that has Goblins. Then maybe it's a winnable matchup because Goblins counter Hog better when his deck has Zap in it. And then me having 3 spells was very not useful at times. And then also, but anyway, Azilys like one of the best Hog players in the world at many different variations of Hog. I knew this was one of his decks coming in, and I thought this would be able to beat it, but Azilys is such a good Hog player that I wasn't able to. I mean, ideally you want to be able to hold Mega Knight in the back, but he's so good and knows how to pressure with Hog so well that he goes Mega Knight, he goes Inferno Dragon behind Mega Knight there because he knew he didn't have Electro Wizard in rotation. Very well played by him. And he knows that if he starts Mega Knight to the back, it can often lead to him being able to go Hog. Right there, he actually misplayed a little bit. If the Hog would have been played in the Hog spot instead of behind Ice Golem, the Goblin Hut, I believe, wouldn't have pulled. Actually, it's a spawner, so maybe it would have. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He got a little bit of damage from the Goblins that leaked through, had a bad log. And so far he's just been playing this really well. So, as you can see from his play style, if you play the Mega Knight at the back, it'll often bait out my Mega Knight because I don't really have any other ways to counter it. Like Electro Wiz, it dies to it really easily. I don't have like a blocking troop, so him ever using Mega Knight is really effective. So him using it there and then being able to counter push with it and bait it out was very good. Once again, I have to use Mega Knight because I don't have anything else that can counter it. So if I would have had Goblins maybe for a little bit of like surrounding him and instead of a 3rd spell, or if of course if I had P.E.K.K.A, I probably would have stood a better chance because I can get like a really value counter push. But regardless, he plays it really well. As this match went on, I started to realize this is not a good matchup for me, and I thought it was. Just because I can't hold on to Mega Knight for Hog, which is what you want to do in that matchup. That being said, if Azilys wasn't an amazing Hog player, it wouldn't have turned out that way for me. I got the reset on the Inferno Dragon there, but and my Mega Knight's gonna start making its way, but in the meantime, he's got a Hog going. And despite my Mega Knight connecting, I got a decent reset and everything and got some pressure down. Like, the game's still pretty close, but Azilys just played this deck really well. You'll see the MVP of my tournament run soon. Yeah, and then Inferno Dragon, just too much pressure and Inferno Dragon locked on. I maybe could have played that a little bit better, but Azilys was the real MVP in that game in terms of how he played. And then finally, you'll see me playing my Graveyard. He played Hog, and both of these are good decks by him, the Ice Wizard Tornado variation. But Graveyard, I'm probably going to make a deck guide on this. I haven't shared all my decks with you guys because I don't want everyone to know my decks. But I really love this Graveyard. And it's a Graveyard Cycle. It's somewhat close to the old variations. But I just love it. I love having double tanks, being able to take advantage of mistakes that your opponent uses and immediately punish them by going offensive. And then also it just defends so well. So I'm in love with this Graveyard deck. And then make sure you make use of defensive poisons. Yeah, so I didn't have poison in hand. A lot of the time, so I end up having to go archers. He ends up having his own poison. So this start was actually really bad for me. I didn't have poison in rotation, but defensive poisons are really crucial in this matchup. And then, of course, you can try to use archers sometimes, but I just find the defensive poisons are very important. So right here, I go in with a graveyard push, get some good damage. Quite a lot of damage, actually. Cannon cart, not the best counter. What I thought he was going to do is that he was going to goblins inside the graveyard. He decides not to. I would have logged if he had. So maybe a slight misplay by him, but not like a big one. So I think if I hadn't froze that cannon cart, that it actually would have leaked forward, and then I actually risked taking a bunch of damage. So just being safe there, freezing it before it has the opportunity to move into range, because once it locks on that tower, it'll continue shooting it until it dies. He decides to go graveyard into my archers. I actually was really happy with this because it allows, there was no tank for my, no tank on my knight, and that allows me to get a very effective defense where I have a knight counter pushing, and I know his poison out of rotation. So that's why, I decided to go ice golem. I go double tanks because I have to have a tank for the tower. And that offers, and Knight's a threat, so if Knight gets there full HP, and it does, it actually gets, threatens to get hits, and he has to use Ice Golem. And in the meantime, I had a pretty good graveyard log on the goblins. I know that he's going to try to use poison offensively, so I'm not too worried about that. Just trying to set up my defense. I knew at this point that I didn't have to save Elixir because he's throwing so many troops down at the bridge that he's not going to be able to graveyard immediately. I got a really nice Ice Spirit there to freeze both the Mega Minion and the Ice Wiz. That was actually like a really good Ice Spirit. And then logging the goblins out, just getting damage. Go through this a little bit faster. And then he goes graveyard. He has to use poison up there. I use defensive poison. And then I know his poison's out of hand, and I know that he's gonna goblin. So I immediately pre-log. I get a perfect log onto those goblins. And I'm able to block the cannon cart with my knight, and I get a lot of damage, and that basically won me the game because I realized obviously poison's out of rotation, so I immediately want to punish it. I don't want to have to give him time to cycle back, and that helped me quite a bit. Once again, gonna go with the defensive poison, being safe, making sure that I'm able to win. I don't know. You can go offensive poison, but if even once like you try to predict poison and they don't put a unit inside it, like you immediately get punished because that's a big waste. And I honestly kind of gave him, so a lot of the time, something that's really important when I'm doing in these graveyard mirror matches, regardless of what the troops are, is you place the archers up high so that they're helping kill the support troops, and then he gets the incentive to poison. So you're not even relying on your archers to poison the graveyard, because then you can defensive poison afterwards, especially if you get, if they don't have like minions and you don't need poison. And then you're able to graveyard with just like a log and get a lot of damage that way. Not enough to like take the tower all at once, but enough to get the damage lead over time. So we're just gonna run through this. I got the rotation very favorable, and then just kind of ran the same thing until I won. Make sure I don't choke here, just being a little bit over defensive, but finally get the elixir lead, get the counter push going, and win the game right here with my final graveyard push. That was enough. So next game, I actually think this one was even easier. So I basically played the same deck, but I was really feeling my graveyard, so I went in with it again. Also, the thing that this graveyard deck does struggle against is pump. Pump and some miners, but usually pump decks. It can struggle. I think it's better against Golem than it is against 3 Musk. But yeah, it can struggle to punish pumps, as all graveyard decks do. So mainly 3 Musk. But Hog, I ran this deck because I knew that he liked Hog and Expo a lot, both of which this deck can counter. Double tanks help a lot against Expo, and Tesla helps a lot against Hog. Oh, I was going through that too fast. I forgot what happened in this game. I played so many matches. Okay, so this is something you need to pay attention to. So, counter the Hog. Ice Spirit was kind of unlucky that he played Hog right then, because I wanted to counter it with Tesla. So, a poison onto an Ice Golem and an Archer. Not necessarily bad, but the second I see that opposite side, I have an Archer. I know that his poison is out of rotation. I know that his main graveyard defense is out of rotation, and that allows me to go all in, and I actually just went on that push because poison was needed by him. and without it, he loses the tower. What he tried to do there, you can actually activate King Tower with a skeleton, because every second kills a skeleton, but a half tick of a graveyard doesn't. So they can actually like pull it, but it's really risky, and obviously he needed to save poison, so that cost him the game. And that was basically it. He tries to come back, but I defend pretty well and end up winning. Next, I had Soking, so I ran a variation of this miner deck. This miner deck actually uses poison instead of fireball, but he banned poison because he didn't want me to play graveyard. I actually then played graveyard with fireball. I'll show you that in a second, but try to get Princess sniping out the Goblin Hut. So I knew Log was in rotation, so I split my Goblin gang so that the other side would go to the tower, and then I put Miner in front of them. I know that he doesn't have the perfect counter in hand then. Also, so I could continue messing up the Goblin Hut with my goblins, and I think I had bats or something on the left side. Anyway, he gets a little bit of damage in retaliation there. My Princess gets logged out, but I know once again that Log is out of rotation. So I believe I wait for him to play first. I knew I was a little bit behind in Elixir, but I knew he didn't have Log in rotation. This enables me to instantly go in offensively on... Okay, so I use... Okay, so yeah, I remember now. I'm still going offensive with the two goblins on the other side. He uses minions and then... or Mega Minion. Electro Wiz would have been a really big overcommit there onto the side that he doesn't have any damage on, so he decides to hold. But I get a lot of damage because of just that Spear Goblin that I split on the right side. I did that because I knew I could get some pressure on that side with Miner in front of it, and in the meantime I could have my Goblins and Spear Goblins doing damage to the Goblin Hut. I think that was a good split. I'm thinking about doing, if I had done it the other way, it would have been more of a threat, and it would make him more apt to defend with like Electro Wiz. So I'm actually kind of happy because the Miner ended up doing, or the two Goblins ended up doing more damage than the Miner would have done, even if it had done like a full amount of damage. Anyway, pressuring right there, getting that Goblin Hut out of the way. He ends up zapping my Princess. Now I know that my bats get additional value, so I go ahead and play them at the back, cycle to another Princess, threaten him, make him have to log it perhaps. He decides to go P.E.K.K.A. And I take that opportunity. I really liked what I did here. So I knew Log I couldn't put them in the same lane, and he ends up logging. So what I did here is I bring back the P.E.K.K.A. I bring the P.E.K.K.A. all the way back, and then I force him to have to play Mega Minion at the bridge because my Princess was going to get shots. I also finish off the Electro Wiz, and he ends up having to waste a Mega Minion because that's 3 elixir because of that Princess, because that P.E.K.K.A. being drawn back and threatening the tower. And that allows him not to go offensively. I have a lot of pressure going down. Get the log down and basically just generate enough, and then finally I can just finish out the game with Miner and spells. But the pressure in that game was really important. Despite him having 3 spells, my Princess has still generated a lot of threat. You just have to play around their spells as best you can. And then Soking decided to go Hog. Oh yeah, so... Oh no, I banned Poison. And he banned Ice Golem, 2 cards in that deck, but I still ran my graveyard deck. I put Baby Dragon in for Ice Golem, and I put, yeah. I really like this deck. But I also thought I could surprise him by running a deck he wouldn't expect. He played this game very well, so I should have won this 1-0. I will say the Executioner gets a lot of value, but my deck is amazing against Hog. So he ends up having to rocket a lot to try to win. Right here, I'm trying to get away with not using my, yeah, I end up logging instead. Not using my Tesla when I counter push. This is actually a pretty good Tesla. It ends up killing off his counter push. It was going to be pretty big, so I decided to go pretty offensive on that one. Eating his Ice Spirit. If he throws down Hog, it'll not work. Obviously, it'll freeze it. And then, I was thinking, so Soking, phenomenal, like really good player. I was thinking Baby Dragon's pretty fast. I don't think he'll risk the rocket. Because I played it in the back. I knew he had rocket, but I played it in the back because I didn't think he'd risk the rocket. I should have just played it up forward more. It would have given me less time to build up elixir, but I shouldn't have given him the rocket. So that was my one big mistake this game, I believe. I knew, I mean, right there, I fireball the Executioner in the tower, getting some damage, also weakening everything for my log, so that his counter push isn't too overwhelming. He decides to Ice Spirit there, so the Executioner doesn't get a shot, and then now he's going rocket, so I'm just going all out offensive. I thought he was gonna go goblins, so I fireballed, but I ended up hitting knight, so not too bad. Well played by Soking there. I definitely have a matchup in this I definitely have the matchup advantage in this, by the way. So he's going Hog Rockets because he knows that Hog won't get enough damage, but of course rocking over and over again gets you behind after a while, even though his Executioner does defend pretty well versus the majority of my push, because like everything in my deck is weak to Executioner. But I am able to finally eke that out. And very close for him as well. He has to finish off with a rocket. I know that now that he's having to rocket out. Graveyard's not amazing, but anyway, what you do is you do the same graveyard placement and you go Knight in the middle and you try to get Fireball value. Pretty good Fireball there. My Baby Dragon is offering a lot of threat now because if it ever splashes the towers, such as so, that's a lot of extra damage that I can count on. And then really it's just rinse and repeat with the same rotation. He goes Hog, I defend it with Tesla. Start Baby Dragon at the back, go Knight in the middle, and then Log. I do have some nice predictions on whether he's going to... So right here, I had Log, and I didn't pre-log because I knew his goblins weren't in rotation. And then finally I do throw it because I knew his goblins were back in rotation, but he decided not to use them. He goes Knight instead. I do get Baby Dragon Splash though, so that was nice. And finally I'm able to finish off the game with a Fireball. And GG, well played. I take it over Soking. Had pretty good matchups, but I played well too. And then next up would be Atchiin. I had a good matchup here. I ran Inferno because it was good against the decks he had been running. Splitting Goblin Gang in the back, going with Miner to try to take advantage of that Goblin Gang. I think I didn't have Inferno Tower in rotation, and I couldn't allow the Inferno Dragon to lock on, so I obviously have to over-defend on that side. I got really unlucky at the start there, or maybe I didn't play it right. I don't feel like rewinding and figuring it out. But that was really nice for me. A lot of the time you want to Miner in the back, unless you're getting too predictable, you want to Miner in the back so that when they do defend with something, it pulls it back, and then like Spear Goblins can get chipped. Same with Bats, so that they don't focus on the support troops and instead on the tower. Big Elixir lead here though because I traded well. Finally using my Inferno Tower. I use that Ice Spirit and I get some Miner chip. This is basically just like old school Miner, which felt really good this game. You block the Mega Knight. I wasn't sure if it would hop the Inferno Tower, so I'm just being safe there. Just blocking everything, letting Inferno Tower do its job. And Hog actually snuck in there like really unluckily for me. The Mega Knight was targeted and it got some hits, but able to get some chip there. Princess of the Bridge, Miner on the tower, and basically just have to defend. And after this push I win because Miner poison zap. Oh yeah, I actually got a Princess shot as well. But yeah, able to finish it out. Solid win. That start was bad, but still played pretty well. This is well played by Atchiin in this game here. I would say the triple spell variation, so this deck with Mega Knight, if it has P.E.K.K.A, it's not that hard to beat, but if it has Mega Knight, it actually has a lot of pressure. But I would say this was more Atchiin playing well in this game that I lost than it was like a terrible matchup. I will say I had a really good push pretty good push right there. With that counter push. Taking advantage of the archer because I thought he was committing to the other side. Goblin Gang here. Goblin Hut. And finally poisoning it. Try to poison it once you get value on another troop. That's why you start like Knight first. Can't wait too long before poisoning the hut, but yeah. A little bit of a misplay on that timing, so I end up having to use Knight. I should have played Ice Golem farther up. Good Ice Spirit though. And good Ice Golem. It distracts the Electro Wiz and it pulls the Miner. I know that his poison out of rotation here, so that's why that was a really bad poison by me. I should have waited and saw what he played. I got too antsy to get damage. I was playing that like phenomenally, and then that poison, I think maybe what ends up losing the game. But yeah, I knew his poison out of rotation, so that's why I went with Graveyard there. Right here, I could have, yeah, I end up going Graveyard. Got a bunch of damage, but I think I end up, yeah, so archers had to be spent there. And that Miner just got way too much damage. I had a bad rotation, so I had no troops that could actually stop Miner. So yeah, basically just Mega Knight defense being a little bit weak there ends up to me losing. Definitely could have won that matchup if I had played a little bit better, but really well played by Atchiin. And then, so first matchup favored me, second one was like a 50-50, and the third one favored him. And I ended up winning this. I think he did say he lagged in the end here, but unfortunately sometimes that's just what happens. I got really unlucky at King's Cup, and it caused me not to qualify, but sometimes it happens. Most of the time though, it comes down to skill. I will say the matchup was in his favor though, so I think I did a really good job to have this game close. I did mess up that graveyard though. Should be one tower to the right. So I'm able to get some damage there. So both these graveyard players I played against, more so Azilys than Atchiin, they don't use defensive poisons enough in my opinion. But I'm also like, I love graveyard, so I play it pretty well. But he used my variation, which my variation actually has it's just a lot less clunky, and it has a lot of P.E.K.K.A counters. And it has archers, so if they can't poison offensively, sometimes archers just shut down graveyard in the mirror match. I decided to go ahead and offensively poison here because I knew that he didn't have a ton in hand to counter the P.E.K.K.A, and I wanted to see if I could get a shot in. But he did a very good job of cycling and defending that, as pro players will do. So well played by him. I do have a big damage lead at this point though, just because I've been playing it well. I waited here to see if he would graveyard, and that was good patience by me, because if I had poisoned too early, if I had overcommitted, it could have caused a lot of problems for me. I want to make sure these archers don't get shots, so I go ahead and go with minions. He got a lot of damage on that graveyard. Sometimes it varies a little bit. I try to get a lot of threat with my P.E.K.K.As, so I'm starting him at the back. He decides not to commit here, goes defensive Tesla instead. I'm not sure I agree with that. You can just counter the P.E.K.K.A once it crosses. I don't like this graveyard either by him. But able to go with my own graveyard now. I don't like playing defensive towers that early either. But like I said, since he has archers, just the fact that poison isn't in my rotation, he's able to punish really hard. So he's able to get back to poison because of the archers, but I do have minions as well, so there's some room to where if he doesn't have poison as well, I can punish. But his deck cycles faster than mine, so he almost always has poison, even if he uses it on defense, unless the graveyard pushes are almost simultaneous or whatever. So that time I do have it, I get a decent amount of damage there. Then he has the counter push. I decided not to use minions that time because I knew he had poison, so once he does use poison, I don't play the minions. I get my knight to defend the best it can. He still got a really good graveyard spawns and got a lot of damage, unfortunately. And then my knight ends up counter pushing. I graveyard there because I have the P.E.K.K.A tanking. Oh, on screen. And then I am able to get graveyard down. Does quite a bit of damage. The poison was an overcommitment. Shouldn't have used it. Should have saved it for defense. I thought I would be able to kill there, but it just didn't work. And so he ends up using poison, and he says that delayed. I honestly think that even if the poison came out a second earlier, I still would have won, but maybe not. I end up connecting with my P.E.K.K.A because he had left it and not killed it once it crossed. He went really hyper offensive, and he didn't win immediately. And that was the game. I should have not poisoned there at the end though, because he was going offensive. I should have held the poison basically. Sometimes it's good to predict it when you know their exact rotation, but other times, even if you do, good players will juke you out and just hold an obvious counter. But anyway, I'm not gonna go over this Golem matchup because Miner with Inferno Tower just hard counters Golem. I don't really have any way to deal with Inferno Tower, so I lost that first one to Oxalate. I'll go over the second matchup. Due to the fact that I only have Knight as a tank, I guess Miner as well. Oxalate and I didn't expect to play each other because we met in the finals, but we had been practicing a little bit the day before. And in our practices, when I played Expo, I won this matchup. When he played Expo, he won this matchup. So I do think it slightly favors the Expo player. But it's somewhat winnable if you play well. You just have to always use Knight to defend, poison the tower, and then make sure if he defends the Knight really hard that you're able to connect with Miner, because otherwise this is what happens. I couldn't commit anymore because I'd already lost too much elixir, but otherwise that's what happens. You take too much damage in the push. You have to get Miner to connect as well as Knight, or a Miner that's like undefended basically. So it's really hard. I mean, you can get damage. The hard part is just killing the Expo. This deck isn't all that amazing at killing an Expo, basically. And what you have to do is you have to make him choose between value. So I knew he was low on elixir here. That's why I went offensive with Knight there. It actually ends up chasing the Ice Golem a little bit, but whatever. You have to bait out his logs on either your Princess or Goblin Gang, and then make sure you get value from the other one. So right here, I actually had really good timing on that Ice Spirit and that Miner. That Miner like kept me in the game basically, and then still Expo locks on. But was a good play there. It kept me in the game. Otherwise, I would have lost right there. Go back. I don't want to play. You can't play Knight until you see Expo because he can always switch lanes. I mean, he's not that far behind damage on the other side. So I end up having to poison. I purposely go Princess here because I wanted him to log it. I knew that if he logged my Princess, once that died, I could immediately go in with Goblin Gang and get a lot of pressure. I probably, in second thought, should have went Goblin Gang Miner on the opposite side, but I kind of wanted to save Miner, so I ended up not using it. I ended up getting Knight down. I poison the area to get some value. And I go Princess. I'm hoping he logs this Princess. Instead, he goes Ice Wiz. I got a really good Miner on the front side of the Expo because he expected me to play it in the back. You got to switch up your Miner positionings. The same as on Tower. You have to switch it up on Expos if you're using it there. On that push, I did get him to... and then I go log here on the Expo as well as my Miner. I am kind of getting more damage on the right side here because you kind of have to attack into the Expo. It just depends on the situation sometimes. He decides to start rocketing me out instead of playing Expos now. I think it's better just to keep on playing Expos. I think that was a little bit early to rocket out. But it works out for him, so I guess it doesn't really matter. Go Poison here because I knew Skeletons. I didn't want them to block the Miner. I'm just going uber aggressive now because I know he's going very offensive. I thought he was going to rocket there, so I played Princess at the bridge to pressure. Because he had just logged the other side, or not just logged the other side, but he had just had troops going on the other side, so I wanted to immediately pressure him once he rocketed, but in that rotation he actually decided to go Expo. But I am able to get quite a bit of pressure. And then this Ice Golem won him the game. This is a beautiful Ice Golem predict. Otherwise I would have won. That was very well played by Oxalate. And that ends up winning him the game. I tried to tornado back there so I could get a tornado shot on the tower. Didn't work out. He staggers his troops and sends out the rocket. So beautifully played at the end there by Oxalate to win the game. And that will put me down 0-2 in the finals versus Oxalate. Winner gets $7,500 and a trip to Worlds. No pressure. But now, I didn't ban Pump in this matchup. I think I banned Pump against everyone except for Soking and Oxalate. I banned another two matches I banned Pump. Anyway, so I decided to go 3 Musk. Golem is actually favored in this matchup. But he made a big misplay early on and I capitalized. So we're both going to pump up. I'm pressuring. That was his misplay. I should replay that. Was so. But he misclicks and defensively poisons, and that will cost him the game in the elixir deficit. Sorry for speeding through that too fast. Okay, so I knew he was down in elixir and we both pumped, so I immediately go. I also, once you see Mega Minion and a pump, you should assume Golem. You should almost always assume Golem. So I immediately recognize that he's not gonna have like a Goblin Gang. He's gonna have these like beefy units that aren't necessarily that great at stopping a battle ram. And then I also know that my Miner is in the rotation after Goblin Gang. I also know that this deck usually runs Zap and not Log. So instead of so I go Goblin Gang and Battle Ram. And then yeah, he misplayed that poison. I'm assuming he went to do goblins. That huge misplay is going to cost him the game. But basically, and his misplay also ended up not making me active the King Tower because my Miner was a little bit too low. But anyway, I know that he doesn't have poison rotation, so I immediately keep with the pressure after defend with Minion Horde. I go in with my Battle Ram. I know he's down. I know he doesn't have poison, so I know that I can connect. And I end up getting a lot of damage immediately. Oh yeah, also, what I was going to say with the Goblin Gang, never go Battle Ram Goblin Gang unless you absolutely know that your opponent doesn't have Log. If I hadn't recognized what his deck was, I would not have gone Goblin Gang with my Battle Ram. That was just me realizing like one of the meta decks and countering it. Because I had also already used this deck in the series, so I recognized it. So What I'm going to do here is I'm going to start my 3 musk pressure. You can't put the 2 musk on the side of the pump, obviously, even if you want to, because that would put you behind an elixir. He ends up going for the elixir collector instead of the musketeers because he really needs a chance to do more damage. I know that he doesn't have poison or like a bunch of AoE on his team, so I actually go minion horde in addition to my musketeer, and it does a ton of pressure on the left lane. He's forced to use his golem on the left side to try to tank and get units behind it to build a counter push, but I had so much pressure on the right side that he didn't have the elixir left to defend, and that mistake has already kind of put him out of the game. And now I just need to finish off his tower, and that's the game basically. I just defended and I almost take second tower. Or no, I ended up 3 crowning, I forgot. Instead of defending, I let it go down, and then basically I just stacked units on the right side and I 3 crowned. It wasn't really close. Sorry about that. And then 4th game, I'm going with Hog. I think in the best of 5, this was the only deck I had an advantage on. I think every other was slightly in his favor or even. But yeah, Hog definitely beats Golem if you play it right. This Hog variation, because it has Inferno Dragon mainly. So pressuring early game, getting Ice Golem to defend. His pump wasn't in rotation. I will say that's pretty unfortunate for him. Sometimes that can work in my favor though if I immediately go forward with like Hog. His cycle sucked though, like no doubt about it at the start there. I zapped there because I wasn't sure if the Inferno Dragon would kill the cannon cart or not, but then the goblins went to the cannon cart, so wasted zap, bad play by me. And then right here I end up having to poison it. Poison the oh yeah, and I go with goblins into Hog right here because I know that his deck has zap. I had already seen it. So yeah, I go Hog, and then I know that Zap will get a lot of value here because he's trying not to commit too much elixir to the left side. Also doesn't have that much elixir, so I get a lot of damage with that Hog push. And then I go offensive Inferno Dragon because I know his Mega Minion is out of rotation, so he can't snipe it. He has Baby Dragon instead of Inferno Dragon as well, so I know that I don't have to fear anything there. If he had zapped the Inferno Dragon, I would have immediately gone Bat on either the Golem or the Cannon Cart because it would have been an increased value for them. I ended up not playing them because I didn't need to. Once again, I go with preemptive poison. I didn't realize that was bad. I should have saved Zap. I thought he was going to try harder to rotate back to his goblins and his Mega Minion, but instead he didn't. Actually, pretty smart play by him. But I'm able to get a really nice bat surround while the Ice Golem is distracting the Mega Minion and the Baby Dragon, and almost completely take those out, and then use the Mega Knight as a tank for the Inferno Dragon, and I'm able to withstand that push and then go in on this one. And yeah, able to defend and win. It is now 2-2. 2 wins into my reverse sweep. And finally, I decide to go 3 Musk. And Oxalate said he lagged at some point, which I'm also very sorry for him. Sincerely sorry if that happened to him during the match. I've had it lose me matches before that were very important. But this is, in all intents and purposes, a deck that should beat mine. Because you're able to tornado all the 3 Musk in one lane. I don't know, I haven't taught you guys that. I probably should. Surgical has done it before in CCGS matches, but you're able to, and that's why I like this. I actually use this miner deck quite a bit too. It didn't make sense for me to use it against the opponents I played today, but a lot of the time if your opponents just love 3 Musk, then, oh, I actually was really proud of this this battle ram. So what I did is I stopped the knight, I distracted the princess, and then the barbarians go and kill the princess, and like miner, nothing else would have done that. Like battle ram was perfect in that situation, and I defended my pump exactly how I wanted to. So all around very good right there. Even if he had poison on the Goblin Gang kills the miner before poison does, and you get the same elixir trade basically. So good defense by me. And then yeah, he's forced to poison here, so I immediately go 3 Musk after. But yeah, he's able to tornado to them one lane, and then princess plus log kills them. But what you can do as a 3 Musk player is you can predict the princess either directly on it or getting it to retarget. See, here's him pulling them to the opposite lane, and then you can immediately punish his usage of whatever spell he has. So I get the perfect block on the princess. I go battle ram. He uses the log. I go in with Goblin Gang, and he has no elixir left to defend. There's no way for him to survive this because I was able to block the princess basically, and that was like perfect. And then tornado comes out as soon as he has the elixir, but he probably shouldn't have used that elixir. And then from there, I basically, that one punish and that early start with me defending the pump well basically won me the game. and that punched my ticket to London and qualified me as a top 16 player for CCGS to the World Finals and everything. Yeah. And then just defending at this point. He has some good pushes, but I'm also not trying to go offensive at all. So I'm just selling out on defense and able to make him split damage, and we get the W. Heartfelt apologies to all the players that weren't able to make it. There are many good players that didn't, and I was ecstatic. I was like, pretty much how I celebrated at Gamergy. I just like went crazy when I won this. I was really happy. Immediately called my mom and everything. And then was cheering with Queso and everyone. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the matches, and I will see you guys again soon, whether it be in competition or in my own YouTube videos. Peace.